I told you they weren't supposed to move in until tomorrow. He's blocking the entire driveway.
Linda Chin's voice was cold and absolute. This is private property. You're parked on community green space. Move that truck immediately, or I'm calling 911. Like calling 911. Could erase what the deed proved since the estate sale, like 30. Years of community use could override the fact that I'd purchased 6 lots. It's not one. What she didn't know? I had the title search showing Margaret Foster owned all 6 lots for 50 years and never transferred them to the HOA. The 1987 letter, where Foster granted permission for temporary use, no permanent structures. And the emails proving Linda was fighting to protect her $75,000 property value, not the community. Linda made the mistake every HOA president makes, assuming decades of maintenance established ownership without checking who held title. She assumed wrong. This is the story of how an HOA paid $43,000 in damages and removed their gazebo because Linda couldn't answer one question. Do you have a deed showing the HOA owns those lots? Because property law doesn't care how long you used it. Cares who owns it. But let me start from the beginning. Before we dive into, I'd love to know where you're listening from today. And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons for more interesting stories, just like this. I've been flipping properties for 12 years. Started with small. Residential distressed houses, foreclosures, anything with equity potential. Cleaned them up, sold them, reinvested. Built a portfolio that eventually let me quit my job and do real estate full-time. The lake house wasn't supposed to be a flip. It was supposed to be mine. I found it through an estate sale listing in March. The previous owner, Margaret Foster, had died at 93. No children, no close relatives. The estate attorney was liquidating everything quickly to settle debts and distribute what remained to distant cousins, who didn't want the hassle of managing property. The house sat on the south shore of Lake Harmon, about 40 minutes outside the city. It's built in 1972, classic A-frame design with floor-to-ceiling windows facing the water, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, wraparound deck, private dock. The kind of place you see in vacation rental ads and think, someday. For me, someday was now. The asking price was $220,000. I offered $180,000, citing needed updates, roof, HVAC, cosmetic work. The estate attorney accepted within 2 days. They wanted it done. I closed in 3 weeks. The title work was routine. My attorney ordered the usual title search survey, lien check. Everything came back clean, no mortgages, no judgments. Clear transfer from Margaret Foster's estate to me, but there was something interesting in the legal description. The deed didn't just convey 123 Lakeshore Drive, Lot 3. It conveyed lots 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, Block A. Lakeside Meadows subdivision, 6 lots. I called my attorney. Tom, the deed lists 6 lots. Is that normal? Let me check the plat. He put me on hold. Came back a minute later. Yeah, the original subdivision platted 12 lots along the lake. 2-acre lots. Your deed conveys 6 contiguous lots about 12 acres total. The house sits on lot 3. The others appear to be undeveloped. So I own 5 empty lakefront lots? Looks like it. Margaret Foster bought all 6 in 1968. Never sold them separately. You got the whole package. I pulled up the satellite view. The house sat on the western edge of the property. To the east, 5 lots stretched along the shoreline open grass. Scattered trees, direct lake access, beautiful, undeveloped, and apparently mine. This wasn't just a lake house. This was an opportunity. I could build on those lots, sell them individually, develop a small lakefront compound. Whatever I wanted, I signed the closing documents with a grin. Moving day was a Saturday in early April. I rented a 26-foot truck, loaded it with furniture, and drove out to the lake. The weather was perfect, clear skies, mid-60s, light breeze. Off the water. The kind of day that made you forget winter ever happened. Lakeside Meadows was a quiet community. 50 or 60 homes, mostly older couples and young families. Tree-lined streets, well-maintained yards, small entrance sign that read "Welcome to Lakeside Meadows, a community of neighbors." I turned onto Lakeshore Drive and spotted my house immediately. The A-frame stood out, taller than the ranches and split levels around it. The deck faced the water, and beyond it, the lake stretched blue and calm under the sun. I pulled the moving truck into the driveway, long and wide, easily big enough for the truck in my car. Started unloading boxes. 10 minutes in, a woman appeared, mid-50s. Athletic build, short dark hair, power walking stride. She wore yoga pants and a fleece vest, and her expression was somewhere between annoyed and outraged. "Excuse me," she called, marching up the driveway. "This is private property. You can't park that truck here." I set down the box I was carrying. "I own this house. I'm moving in." She stopped, hands on hips. "You own Lot 3? That truck is parked on Lot 4? This area is designated community green space. No commercial vehicles allowed." I looked at the truck. It was entirely in my driveway, which was entirely on my property. "This is my driveway, on my lot. Lot 4 is green space," she said, as if explaining something to a child. "You're blocking the view corridor. This is a violation of HOA bylaws. Not on Lot 4, I'm on Lot 3. My driveway. The truck extends past the property line. You're encroaching on community space." I stared at her. "Who are you?" "Linda Chen, HOA president. And you're in violation of community standards." "I'm moving into my house," I said slowly. "This is a moving truck, residential moving, not commercial activity. I don't care what you call it. It's a commercial vehicle and it's blocking green space. Move it immediately. I'll move it when I'm done unloading." Her face hardened. "You have 5 minutes. If it's not moved, I'm calling the police." I laughed. Couldn't help it. "You're going to call the police because I'm moving into my own house?" "I'm calling the police because you're trespassing on community property and violating HOA regulations. 5 minutes." She turned and walked back toward the house next door, hers, apparently. I went back to unloading, assuming she was bluffing. She. WASN. Single quotes. 4 minutes later, Linda stood at the end of my driveway with her phone to her ear, speaking loud enough for me to hear. Double quotes. "Yes. I need to report a trespassing situation. There's someone with a commercial truck blocking our community green space. Lakeside Meadows subdivision, 123 Lakeshore Drive." I stopped mid-lift, holding a lamp. "Are you serious right now?" She ignored me. "No, they're refusing to move." "Yes, I'm the HOA president. We have rules about commercial vehicles and green space. Encroachment." I walked over. "Call 911 because I'm unloading a moving truck." She lowered the phone. "You were warned. The police will explain the rules. There's no emergency here. Trespassing is an emergency. I own this property. You own Lot 3, not Lot 4. That's community land." She turned and walked back to her house. Phone still at her ear. I stood there, furious and confused, watching her disappear inside. What the hell had I just bought into? The sheriff's deputy arrived 12 minutes later. Young guy. Okay, maybe late 20s. Looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. He got out of his cruiser and approached slowly, taking in the scene, me standing next to a moving truck, boxers scattered across the driveway, no visible crime in progress. "Afternoon," he said. "I got a call about a trespassing complaint." "That would be Linda Chen," I said, gesturing toward her house. "She called 911 because I'm moving into my house." "You live here?" "As of 3 weeks ago. Just closed." I pulled out my phone, showed him the DED PDF. "I own this property. This is my moving truck, in my driveway on my land." The deputy looked at the deed, then at the truck.
What's the issue?"
Linda emerged from her house and walked over, arms crossed. "Officer, this man is parked on community green space, Lot 4. It's a violation of HOA regulations." The deputy looked at me. "Is the truck on Lot 4? "No. It's in my driveway. On Lot 3, which I own." Linda pointed east. "The truck is encroaching on Lot 4, which is designated green space maintained by the HOA." The deputy sighed. "Ma'am, this sounds like an HOA dispute, not a criminal matter. If he owns the property and he's moving in, he's allowed to have a truck here. but the HOA bylaws are a civil issue, not a police matter. You own the house? Yes. You're moving in? Yes. Then you're good. Finish your move. He looked at Linda. Ma'am, if you have an issue with HOA rules, that's something you handle internally or through a lawyer. This isn't a 911 situation. Linda's face went red. He's violating community standards. That's not a crime. Have a good day, folks. The deputy walked back to his cruiser and left. Linda stood there, vibrating with anger. She pointed at me. You'll be hearing from the HOA board. This isn't over. Looking forward to it, I said. She stormed back to her house. I stood in the driveway, holding a box of kitchen supplies, watching her go. And I realized something Linda had no idea. Owned 6 lots. She thought I was some new homeowner she could bully into compliance. She'd just called 911 on someone who owned more of this neighborhood than she probably realized. And when she found out, this was going to get very interesting. I smiled, grabbed another box, and kept unloading. Let her send. Her letters. Let her threaten her fines. I had the deed, and Linda Chen was about to learn exactly what that meant. The certified letter arrived on Tuesday. I was unpacking the last boxes in the kitchen when I heard the mail truck. Walked out to find a green slip in my mailbox signature required for certified mail. I drove to the post office, signed for it, and opened the envelope in the parking lot.
Lakeside Meadows Homeowners Association. A Deer homeowner. This letter serves as official notice of violations observed at 123 Lakeshore Drive.
On April 6, 2026, unauthorized parking of commercial vehicle on community green space lot for encroachment on designated open space area, failure to submit architectural review committee application for moving activities, fine assessed, $500 payment. Must be received within 14 days. Continued violations may result in additional fines and lien placement against your property. You may appeal this violation at the next HOA board meeting. April 15th, 7 p.m., Community Center. Sincerely, Linda Chenicho, a president. I read it twice then. Laughed out loud. $500. For moving into my own house, I wasn't paying it. But I was definitely going to that meeting. The Lakeside Meadows Community Center. It was a small building near the neighborhood entrance, probably built in the 1980s. Vinyl siding, fluorescent lights, folding tables and chairs. I arrived at 6:55 p.m. A dozen residents sat scattered around the room. Linda sat at the front table with 2 others, a balding man in his 60s named Tent, Mark Stevenson, VP, and a woman in her 50s with reading glasses on a chain named Tent, Susan Garrett, treasurer. Linda saw me walk in, her expression hardened. I sat in the front row, folded my hands, waited. Linda called the meeting to order at 7:02. They started with routine business approval of last month's minutes. Financial report, landscaping contract renewal. I half listened, checking my phone. Finally, Linda looked at me. New business. We have a violation appeal from 123 Lakeshore Drive. That's me, I said, standing. I received a letter claiming I owe $500 for moving into my house. You parked? A commercial vehicle on community green space, Linda said. That's a violation of our bylaws. Section 4.3. No commercial vehicles on common areas. I parked a moving truck in my driveway. On my property. Linda pulled out a map and set it on the table. This is the subdivision plat. Lot 3 is your house. Lot 4 is community green space. Your truck extended onto Lot 4. I walked up to look at the map. It showed 12 lots along the lake, labeled 1 through 12. Lots 4, 5, 6, 8, and 9 had green shading. And labels, community green space, no development. Your truck was on Lot 4, Linda said. That's community property. The fine stands. I wasn't on Lot 4. You were observed. I own Lot 4. The room went silent. Linda stared at me. Excuse me? I own Lot 4 and Lot 5 and Lot 6, 7, and 8. 6. Lots total. I pulled out my deed and set it on the table. Checked the legal description. Linda grabbed the deed. Mark and Susan leaned over to read it. Lots 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Block a Lakeside Meadows subdivision, I said. All conveyed to me in the estate sale. All private property, not community property. Linda looked up, face pale. That's impossible. Those lots are HOA land. No, they're not. They were owned by Margaret Foster. She bought all 6 in 1968 when the subdivision was platted. Built her house on Lot 3, kept the others as a buffer, never transferred them to the HOA. When she died, her estate sold them to me. Mark spoke up. But we've been maintaining those lots for 30 years. You've been maintaining my property? I said. Without permission, that doesn't make them yours. Susan flipped through the deed pages. This is signed by the probate court. It looks legitimate. It is legitimate, I said. I own those lots. So when Linda claimed I was parking on community green space, she was wrong. I was parking on my property. Linda's jaw tightened. The community has used those lots as green space since the 1970s. We mow them. We maintain them. We hold events there. They're ours. You assumed they were yours. You never checked title. Now you're trying to find me for using my own land. Well, see what our attorney says? Linda snapped. You can't just claim community property because you bought one house. I'm not claiming it. I own it. There's a difference. Picked up the deed. If you want to verify, call the county recorder's office. The title is clear. Linda looked at Mark and Susan. We need to investigate this. I moved that the board consult with our attorney to determine the status of lots 4 through 8. Second, Mark said quickly. They voted. 3 in favor. Linda turned to me. Until this is resolved, you are not to interfere with community use of those lots. No fences, no signs, no construction. If you do, we'll take legal action. You're threatening to sue me if I use my own property? We're protecting community assets, Linda said coldly. This meeting is adjourned. I left the community center and I drove straight to a bar 15 minutes away, ordered a beer, and called Tom, my attorney. Hey, Tom, I need you to research something. Lakeside Meadows HOA. I want to know if they ever owned lots 4 through 8 or if they just assumed they did. What's going on? Explain the meeting. The map showing my lots as community green space. Linda's threats. Tom was quiet for a moment. Let me pull the HOA's formation documents and the original subdivision records. I'll call you tomorrow. He called at 10 a.m. the next day. Brian, I found the records. The HOA was formed in 1975, 7 years after the subdivision was platted. The Declaration of Covenants lists specific common areas and entrance sign. A small tot lot on a different block and walkways. No mention of lots 4 through 8, so they never owned them, correct? Those lots stayed with Margaret Foster. I also found meeting minutes from the 1980s where residents requested permission to use Mrs. Foster's open lots for community picnics. She apparently said yes, so they've been using my land with permission from the previous owner. Permission. That ended when she died, and the property transferred to you. You don't have any legal claim. Linda's threatening to sue if I interfere with their use. Tom laughed. Let her try. You own the land. You can do whatever you want with it. They want continued access. They need your permission, which you're under no obligation to give. What should I do? Document everything. Take photos of what they've installed on your lots. Get a survey to confirm the boundaries. And if they escalate, we respond with a demand letter making your ownership clear. Do it. Get the survey scheduled. And draft a letter. I drove out to the property that afternoon and walked the 5 lots east of my house. They were beautiful. Gently sloping lawns leading down to the lake, scattered oak and maple trees. Wildflowers starting to bloom near the water's edge. I could see why the community loved them, but they'd also made themselves at home. On Lot 5, someone had installed a park bench facing the lake. On Lot 6, a wooden gazebo, maybe 10 by 10 feet, shingled roof, painted white. On Lot 7, a stone walking path leading down to the water, all on my land. Without permission, I took photos, lots of them. Then I noticed something else. The gazebo had a small plaque dedicated to the Lakeside Meadows community, 2018, built with pride by our residents. They'd built a structure on my property 5 years ago and dedicated it to themselves. I called Tom. They built a gazebo on lot 6. Looks expensive. Get pictures. They sue, we countersue for trespass, and demand they remove it. The second violation. Notice arrived Friday. Notice of violation second OFA fee and SC Mr. Holloway, you are hereby notified of an additional violation. It's unauthorized claim to community property lots 4 to 8, making false claims to HOA. Common areas constitutes interference with community operations and harassment of board members. Fine assessed. $1,000 additionally, your previous fine of $500 remains unpaid. Total due $1,500. Failure to pay within 10 days will result in lien filing against your property and potential legal action. This is your final warning. Linda Chen. Stared at the letter. They were fining me $1,000 for claiming to own property I actually owned and threatening to lien my house if I didn't pay. I called Tom. They just escalated. I need that survey done immediately. I want to file something a declaratory judgment. Whatever it takes to make it crystal clear that I own those lots and they need to back off. I'll draft a complaint. I'll ask the court to confirm your title and enjoin the HOA from interfering with your property rights. But Brian, this is going to get expensive. I don't care. They called 911 on me for moving in. Now, they're fining me for owning land. I'm not backing down. Understood. I'll have the complaint ready by Monday. I hung up and looked at the violation notice again. Linda. Chen had made a massive mistake. She'd assumed those lots were HOA property. Because they'd been treating them that way for decades, she'd never checked the title, and now she was doubling down. Threatening me. Trying to bully me into surrendering property I legally owned. She was about to learn a very expensive lesson. I owned the block, and was about to prove it. The surveyor came out on Monday morning. Professional crew, 3 people, total station equipment. They spent 4 hours walking the property, setting up instruments, driving stakes with bright orange flags. I watched from my deck as they worked their way down the shoreline, marking the boundaries of each lot with precision. The crew chief, a guy named Ron, probably late 50s, came up to the house when they finished. You've got 6 lots here, he said, showing me the preliminary map. Lots 3 through 8, just like your deed says. Total of 12.3 acres. All lakefront. Beautiful property. And the structures, the gazebo, the benches, he checked his notes. Gazebos on lot 6, benches on lot 5 and lot 7, walking path crosses lot 6 and 7, all within your property boundaries. So the HOA built all that on my land. Looks that way. You want the full written report? Yeah, as detailed as possible. I'm going to need it for court. Ron raised an eyebrow but didn't ask questions. You'll have it by Friday. Tom sent the demand. Letter on Wednesday, formal, legal, unambiguous. Sent via certified mail to Linda Chen, the HOA board, and the HOA's registered agent. Dear Lakeside Meadows, HOA board. This firm represents Brian Holloway, owner of lots 3 to 8, Block A, Lakeside Meadows subdivision. Recent survey confirms Mr. Holloway's ownership of approximately 12.3 acres, including the lots your association has incorrectly designated as community green space. These lots have never been transferred to the HOA. They are private property. Your association's use of this land, including installation of structures, landscaping, and public events, has been without legal authorization. We demand the following. Immediate cessation of all references to lots 4 to 8 as community property, removal of all unauthorized structures, gazebo, walking paths within 30 days, withdrawal of all fines assessed against Mr. Holloway. Public correction of false statements regarding ownership. Failure to comply will result in legal action for trespass, removal, and damages. Sincerely, Thomas Chen. Attorney at Lai. Got a copy via email. Read it 3 times, smiling. Think they'll comply? I asked Tom on the phone. Doubtful. Linda's dug in. But this gives them a chance to back down before it gets ugly. And if they don't, we file suit. Ask the court to confirm your title, order removal of the structures, and assess damages for trespass. You're looking at $20,000 to $30,000 in legal fees, depositions, expar witnesses, trial prep. Maybe more if they drag it out. but you'll recover most of it when you win. And you will win. The law is clear. Do it. I want everything ready to go. Linda's response came faster than I expected. Not to, Tom, to the entire community. Thursday evening, every HOA member received an email. Subject: urgent resident threatens community green space. Dear neighbors, I am writing to inform you of a serious threat to our community. A new resident at 123 Lakeshore Drive is claiming ownership of lots 4 to 8. The green space areas we have enjoyed and maintained for over 30 years. He's demanding we remove our gazebo, benches, and walking path structures we built together as a community. This resident is trying to steal our parks. His attorney has threatened legal action if we don't surrender the land. This would eliminate our lakefront access, destroy property values, and ruin the character of our neighborhood. We must stand together. I am calling an emergency community meeting for Saturday, April 20th, 10 a.m. at the community center. Every homeowner needs to attend. We need to show this individual that Lakeside Meadows will not be bullied. Our community, our land, our future. Linda Chen, HOA. President Tai read it twice. Furious. She was lying to the entire neighborhood, claiming I was stealing their land when I'd legally purchased it, rallying them against me. Tom called within an hour. Did you see the email? Yeah. She's creating a mob. You need to be careful. I'm going to that meeting. Brian, that might not be smart. 80 angry homeowners who think you're stealing their park. I'm going. They need to hear the truth. Tom sighed. Then I'm going with you. Saturday morning, the community center parking lot was packed. I counted at least 60 cars. Tom and I walked in together at 9:55. The room was standing room only. Maybe 80 or 90 people crammed into a space meant for 50. Every head turned when I entered. The hostility was immediate. Glares, whispers, crossed arms. Tom and I found seats in the back. Linda stood at the front table with Mark Stevenson and Susan Garrett flanking her. A man in a suit, her attorney, probably sat to her left. Mark looked uncomfortable, fidgeting with papers. Susan stared at the table, avoiding eye contact. Linda called the meeting to order at 10:05. Thank you all for coming. I know this is last minute, but we're facing a crisis. She gestured toward me. That man in the back, Brian Holloway, has claimed ownership of our community green space, lots 4 through 8. The land we've used for 30 years. Murmurs spread. Through the room, he's demanding we remove the gazebo we built together in 2018, the benches we donated, the paths we maintain. He wants to take our park and do whatever he wants with it. A woman in the front row stood. Can he do that? Just claim our land? That's what we're fighting, Linda said. His attorney sent a threatening letter. We have rights. We've maintained that land for decades. We've invested our money in improvements. We've held community events, their birthdays, picnics, weddings. That land belongs to all of us. Linda's attorney stood. I'm David Brenner, representing the HOA. We're exploring an adverse possession claim. Under state law, continuous, open use of property for 30 years can establish legal title, especially when the community has made substantial improvements and maintained the land as their own. I stood up. That's not true. Every eye turned to me. I kept my voice calm. I understand you're upset. I know this feels unfair, but the deed is public record. Anyone can verify it at the county recorder's office. Margaret Foster owned those 6 lots for 50 years. When she died, her estate sold them to me. That's how property works. I'm not trying to steal anything. I bought land that was legally for sale. You can't just buy our park, someone shouted. From the middle, it was never your park, I said. It was private property. Margaret Foster let you use it as a courtesy. That was generous. But it doesn't transfer ownership. Linda held up a folder, her voice rising. I have photos. 30 years of community use. She pulled out a picture and held it up. A little girl's birthday party, maybe 20 kids gathered around the gazebo. Balloons tied to the white posts, a rainbow cake on the picnic table. She showed another, an older couple in formal wear, holding hands at sunset by the lake, a small crowd watching. A vow renewal, probably their 50th anniversary. A third photo showed at least 50 people spread across the lawn for a 4th of July picnic, kids waving sparklers, families on blankets, real memories, real emotions. Just on my land. This is our community, Linda said, voice breaking slightly. Our space, our memories. We built the gazebo in 2018. Every homeowner contributed $500 each. 80 households. That's $40,000 we invested together. And now he wants to tear it down. The room erupted in anger. Tom stood. I'm Mr. Holloway's attorney. Those lots were never transferred to the HOA. Your use, however long, doesn't create ownership. David Brenner cut in. Adverse possession can absolutely create ownership. Continuous, open, notorious use for the statutory period, which in this state is 15 years. The community has exceeded that. They've made substantial improvements. They've treated it as their own. That's textbook adverse possession. Tom's voice stayed steady. Adverse possession requires hostile use. That means without the owner's permission. And in defiance of their superior claim, Margaret Foster explicitly gave permission for community use in the 1980s. We have meeting minutes proving it. That makes the use permissive, not hostile. Permission defeats the adverse possession claim. Completely. Every lawyer in this room knows that. Susan Garrett looked up briefly, met my eyes, then looked back down. She knew. She'd reviewed my deed at the last board meeting. She knew Tom was right, but she said nothing. We'll let a court decide, Brenner said. The room descended into chaos. People shouting questions, others yelling at me, a few trying to restore order. Linda banged a gavel. We're filing a lawsuit. We're going to prove that land belongs to this community. And we're asking every homeowner to contribute to the legal fund. We fought for our gazebo once. We'll fight again. Hands shot up. How much? Where do we donate? What can we do? I looked at Tom. He shook his head slightly. Let's go. We walked toward the door through a chorus of boos and angry shouts. As we reached the exit, an older man, maybe 70, standing near the back caught my eye. He didn't speak, didn't smile, just gave a slight nod, his expression saying what he couldn't say aloud. You're right, but I can't say it publicly. I wasn't completely alone, just outnumbered. The vandalism started that night. I woke up Sunday morning to find every survey stake pulled out and thrown in the lake. All 36 of them $100 worth of survey work. Destroyed the no trespassing private property signs I'd posted on lots 4 to 8. Torn down, ripped to pieces, scattered across the lawn, and my truck parked in the driveway had red paint splashed across the hood and windshield. Big, angry streaks. The kind that would take professional work to remove. I called the sheriff deputy. Collins came out, the same guy from moving day. He looked tired. This is getting out of hand, he said, photographing the paint damage. Linda Chen held a meeting yesterday. Got 80 people worked up, told them I'm stealing their park. Now, my property's vandalized. Do you have proof she did this? Oh, but the timing's obvious. I'll file a report. But unless you have evidence linking someone specific to the vandalism, there's not much I can do. I took the truck to a body shop Monday morning. The estimate came back $1,200 to strip sand and repaint the affected panels. I kept the receipt, added. It's the running list of damages I'd claim in court. Linda wanted a war over property lines. Fine. Every dollar this cost me would come back in the judgment. Linda called the sheriff's office that afternoon, filed a complaint claiming I was harassing residents by posting threatening signs on community land. Collins called me. Linda Chen says, "You're posting threatening signs." They're not threatening. They say private property and no trespassing. Because it's my property and people are trespassing. She says it's community land. It's not. Own it. You've seen the deed. Mr. Holloway, I know. The deed is clear. But this is a civil dispute. You two need to resolve it in court, not by escalating back and forth. I'm not escalating. I'm defending my property. Just keep it peaceful, please. Because if this turns into something worse, I'll have to get involved. And nobody wants that. Understood. I met with Tom the following Tuesday. They're not backing down, I said. They're filing suit, raising money. Organizing the whole neighborhood against me. Linda's attorney sent us their complaint draft. They're claiming adverse possession and asking the court to declare lots 4 to 8 as HOA property. Can they win? Tom leaned back. No. Here's why. Adverse possession has 4 requirements. The use must be hostile, open, and notorious, continuous. And for the statutory period 15 years in this state, they've got open, notorious, and continuous. But hostile is where they fail. Because Margaret gave permission. Exactly. I found a 1987 letter in the HOA archives. Margaret Foster wrote to the board, "You may continue using the open lots for neighborhood gatherings, provided the area is kept clean and no permanent structures are installed." That's explicit permission. It turns their use from hostile into permissive. Permissive use, no matter how long, doesn't ripen into ownership. Permission kills the adverse possession claim dead. So they built the gazebo in violation of her permission. Right? She said no permanent structures. They built one anyway in 2018, 20 years after she wrote that letter. That's trespass, not adverse possession. How long will this take? 6 months? Maybe a year? Discovery, depositions, maybe expert testimony on property law. But Brian, you'll win. The law is on your side. The only question is damages. Thought about the meeting, the photos Linda had shown, birthday party, the vow renewal, 50 people at a 4th of July picnic. What if I just build on the lots, I said. Assert my ownership by developing them. Tom shook his head. You'd need permits. The HOA could fight those at the zoning board. And if you start construction before the lawsuit is resolved, you're going to have a riot. These people genuinely believe that land is theirs. They're not going to sit quietly while you bulldoze what they see as their park. So what do you suggest? We file our own lawsuit. Declaratory judgment confirming your title, trespass claim for the gazebo, benches, and paths. Demand for removal and damages, including your truck repair, survey costs, and legal fees. As we force them to prove their adverse possession claim in court, they can't. We get a judgment making it crystal clear that you own every inch of those 12 acres. File it. You're sure? This is going to cost $25,000, maybe $30,000 by the EHE. Time we're done. It's going to be ugly. The neighborhood already hates you. I looked out his office window at the city skyline, thinking about the lake house I'd bought for peace. I didn't start this, I said. Linda called 911 on me for moving in. Fined me $1,500. For owning my own land, organized a mob to intimidate me. Had my truck vandalized. All because she never bothered to check who actually owned the property. So we fight. We fight. And when we win, I want a court order that spells it out in words even Linda can understand. I own the block, not her, not the HOA. Me. Tom drafted. The complaint that afternoon, Brian Holloway v. Lakeside Meadows HOA. Inc., Linda Chen, Mark Stevenson, and Susan Garrett. We filed it Thursday morning. The lawsuit would determine one thing: who owned lots 4 through 8. Within 90 days, we'd be in court. Linda would have to prove her adverse possession claim, which she couldn't, because Margaret Foster's 1987 letter gave permission, defeating the hostile use requirement entirely. I'd walk out with a judgment confirming, no, I owned every inch of those 12 acres, and then I'd send Linda a bill for my truck. The war was official, and I wasn't backing down. Discovery started 6 weeks after we filed. The judge ordered both sides to produce all relevant documents within 30 days. Deeds, meeting minutes, maintenance records, correspondence, financial statements, anything related to lots 4 through 8. Tom and I spent a weekend compiling everything. The tax sale deed, title insurance policy showing clear chain of ownership, survey maps with Ron's signatures and stamps, the chain of title going back to 1968 when the subdivision was first platted. This is as clean as it gets, Tom said, reviewing. The stack. No gaps. No clouds. Margaret Foster to her estate to you. 3 transfers in 58 years. The HOA's production arrived in 2 banker's boxes. Meeting minutes going back to 1975. Maintenance invoices for lawn. Mowing on common areas. Dozens of photos showing community events on the lots. Receipts for the gazebo construction. A thick file of correspondence between board members. Tom spent 3 days reviewing it all. He called me on a Thursday evening. "Brian, I found it. The smoking gun." "Found what?" "The original subdivision plat from 1968 in a letter from Margaret Foster that destroys their entire case." We met at his office the next morning. Tom spread the 1968 plat across his conference. Tabula, large blueprint-style document, edges yellowed with age. Stamped and signed by the county surveyor. It showed 12 rectangular lots running along the lakeshore. Each lot labeled and numbered, Lot 1 through Lot 12, 2 acres each. Clean, simple, residential subdivision. No designation of community green space. No parks marked. No common areas shown. "This is the original plat," Tom said. "It's filed with the county when the developer created the subdivision. Every lot was platted for individual sale. None were designated as HOA property. So where did Linda get the idea they were community land? That's where it gets interesting." Tom pulled out another document. HOA was formed in 1975-7. Years after the subdivision was created, here's the Declaration of Covenants. He showed me a faded typewritten document, 18 pages long. Page 6 lists the common areas. Association common property shall consist of the entrance. Monument and signage located at the intersection of Lakeshore Drive and County Road 17. And the tot lot and playground located on the western portion of Lot 22. Lot 22 is on a different block. Correct. Common areas are nowhere near your property. Lots 4 through 8 aren't mentioned anywhere in the HOA's founding documents because they were already sold. Exactly. Margaret Foster bought all 6 lots in 1968, 3 months after the subdivision was platted. Paid $12,000, totaled $2,000 per lot. Built her house on Lot 3 in 1972. Kept the other 5 as buffer space. The HOA formed 3 years later and never acquired them. I looked at the plat, then at the Declaration of Covenants. So the HOA has been operating under a false assumption for 50 years? Looks like it, but it gets better. Tom pulled out a thin manila folder. I found HOA meeting minutes from 1984. Look at this entry. He pointed to a typewritten paragraph. Motion by Director Harrison. Request permission from Mrs. Margaret Foster to utilize her undeveloped lots for community gatherings and recreational use. Unanimous approval. Secretary to draft letter. Asked her for permission, I said, and she gave it. Tom showed me the next document, a letter on personal stationery. Dated May 1987, signed in elegant CURSIVE. Dear Lakeside Meadows HOA Board. Thank you for your letter regarding use of the open lots adjacent to my property. I am pleased to allow the community to continue enjoying these spaces for neighborhood gatherings and recreation. You may use the lots for picnics, informal sports, and community events, provided the areas are kept clean and no permanent structures are installed. I appreciate the care your members have shown in maintaining the natural beauty of our shared lakefront. Warm regards, Margaret Foster. Tom tapped the letter. This is the case, right here. She gave explicit permission. It means every single day the community used those lots for 39 years was permissive use, not hostile. Adverse possession requires hostile use. This letter defeats their claim completely. She said no permanent structures, which they violated when they built the gazebo in 2018. That's not adverse possession. That's trespass. Read the letter again. Margaret Foster had been generous. She'd shared her land with her neighbors for decades. They'd repaid that generosity by assuming they owned it. When's Linda's deposition? I asked. Next Tuesday, Linda Chen's deposition was held at Tom's office. She arrived with David Brenner, her attorney. Mark Stevenson and Susan Garrett came to board solidarity, probably. They sat in the waiting area while Linda went into the conference room. The court reporter sat up at one end of the table. Tom sat across from Linda. I sat beside him, notebook open. Tom started with basics. Name, address, how long she'd lived in Lakeside Meadows, 14 years. When she became HOA president in 2019, then he got to the point. It's Chen. When did the HOA acquire ownership of lots 4 through 8? Linda crossed her arms. They've always been community property. Always meaning what? Since when? Since the subdivision was created, the 1960s. Do you have a deed showing transfer of those lots to the HOA? Silence. Ms. Chen, the lots were designated as green space. Everyone knows that. I didn't ask what everyone knows. I asked if you have a deed. No. No deed transferring lots for 2-8 to the HOA? Not that I've seen. Have you looked? Linda shifted. I assumed the previous boards handled that. So you never verified ownership before claiming those lots as community property. We've maintained them for decades. We built a gazebo there. The community uses them constantly. That's not what I asked. Did you verify at any point that the HOA legally owned those lots? I didn't think I needed to. Tom pulled out the 1968 plat. This is the original subdivision plat. Do you see any designation of community green space on lots 4 to 8? What? Linda studied. No, but do you see any transfer of those lots to the HOA in the original documents? No. Tom showed her the 1975 Declaration of Covenants. This is your HOA's founding document. Where does it list lots 4 to 8 as common property? Linda scanned the pages. Her face tightened. It doesn't. So the HOA's own founding documents don't claim those lots. We've been using them for 30 years, Ms. Chen, you claimed those lots were always community property. But you have no deed. They're not in the subdivision plat, and they're not in your HOA's declaration. So when you say always, what are you basing that on? We maintain them. We mow them. We've invested money. You assume they were yours because you've been using them? Linda's voice rose. Everyone in the community knows those are our green spaces. Knowing something and owning something are different. Do you understand that, David? Brenner put a hand on Linda's arm. Let's take a break. After the break, Tom showed Linda the 1987 letter. Do you recognize this? Linda read it, her face going pale. I've never seen this before. It's in your HOAS files. Margaret Foster granted permission for community use. Does that change your understanding of the situation? She gave permission for temporary use. That doesn't mean it means your use was permissive, not hostile. Do you know what that does to an adverse possession claim? Brenner intervened. She's not a lawyer. Don't ask her to interpret legal standards. Tom didn't look away from Linda. Let me ask it differently. Did you? No, Margaret Foster gave the HOA permission to use her lots. No. If you had known, would you still claim the HOA owns them? Linda hesitated. I don't know. One more question. You live at what address? 487 Lakeshore Drive. Lot 11. Tom pulled out a photo aerial view of the neighborhood. Your property has lake views, correct? Yes, those views exist because lots 4 to 8 remain undeveloped, correct? I suppose. If Mr. Holloway builds houses on his lots, your view disappears? That's not yes or no. If he builds on lots 4 to 8, does your lake view disappear? Probably yes. And what would that do to your property value? Brenner stood. Objection. She can answer based on her understanding of the market. Linda looked at her attorney, then back at Tom. Would hurt my value, maybe $50,000 or $60,000. So you have a personal financial interest in keeping those lots undeveloped. Have an interest in protecting the community. Is that why you're fighting so hard? To protect your property value? No, I'm fighting for everyone. Tom slid a printed email across the table. Do you recognize this? Linda's face went white. It was an email from her to Mark and Susan, dated 2 weeks after I'd moved in. We need to fight this. If Holloway builds on those lots, half the lakefront homes lose. Their views, my property alone would drop $50,000, $75,000. We claim adverse possession. Tie him up in court, make it expensive. Eventually he'll give up or settle. Assess fines to pressure him. Did you write this? Tom asked. Linda stared at the email. That was Taken out of context, did you write it? Yes. So when you told the community you were fighting to protect their park, you were actually fighting to protect your property value. That's not fair. You organized 80 homeowners to oppose. Mr. Holloway, you told them he was stealing their land. But you never told them you had a personal financial stake in the outcome, did you? I was protecting the community. You were protecting your view. And when Mr. Holloway proved he owned the land, you doubled down instead of admitting the HOA. Made a mistake. Brenner stood. This deposition is over. One last question, Tom said. The gazebo. How much did it cost? Linda hesitated. About $8,000, funded by a special assessment on homeowners. Yes, $500 per household. How many households paid? Most of them, maybe 80. So the community paid $40,000 total, and you spent $8,000 building a structure on someone else's land without checking who owned it. Linda said nothing. We're done, Brenner said. The emails kept coming. Tom subpoenaed all board correspondence. Found a chain between Linda, Mark, and Susan discussing strategy. Linda to Mark. We can't let him win this. If those lots get developed, property values tank. Mark to Linda. Can we claim adverse possession? We've been using them forever. Susan. To both. I reviewed his deed. It's legitimate. We should settle. Linda to Susan. No, we fight. I'm not losing my view because some investor bought cheap land. The emails showed Linda knew the legal position was weak. She was fighting anyway, not for the community, but for herself. Word spread fast. A couple named Tom and Jessica Winters, they lived on Lot 9, started asking questions. Tom was an accountant, detail-oriented, skeptical. They requested copies of HOA documents, reviewed the 1975 declaration, checked the county records. Jessica called me one evening. Mr. Holloway, this is Jessica Winters. My husband and I owe you an apology. For what? We were at the community meeting, booed you. We thought you were stealing our park. But we did our own research. Linda lied to us. I appreciate you saying that. We paid $500 for the gazebo special assessment. Everyone did. Linda told us it was for community property. But it's on your land. We paid to build something on your property without your permission. I know, that's fraud, isn't it? At minimum, it's mismanagement. Tom Winters got on the line. We're organizing a petition. Vote of no confidence in Linda's leadership. We've got 40 signatures so far. We're calling a special meeting. Good luck. She's fighting this to protect her property value, not the community. People need to know that. The petition was submitted 3 days later. 43 homeowners signed it, demanding a vote to remove Linda as president and halt the lawsuit. Linda refused, sent an email claiming the board had authority to continue litigation and that a special meeting wasn't warranted. Tom and Jessica fought back, citing HOA bylaws requiring special meetings when requested by 25% of members. The civil war within the HOA had begun. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for early June. Both sides submitted briefs. Tom's was 50 pages, meticulously argued. With Margaret Foster's 1987 letter as Exhibit A, the HOA's brief argued that permission given in 1987 didn't extend to 2026, and that the community's continued use and improvements established hostile intent. Judge Marilyn Torres reviewed everything and called us into her courtroom. She was mid-50s. Sharp, no nonsense. I've reviewed the briefs and the evidence. Let me be clear. I'm not ruling on final ownership today, but I am ruling on the adverse possession claim. She looked at David Brenner. Counselor, your claim fails on the hostility requirement. Mrs. Foster's 1987 letter explicitly granted permission for community use. Permissive use cannot become adverse possession, no matter how long it continues. Permission defeats hostility. That's black-letter law. Your Honor, the letter said no permanent structures. They built structures anyway, which makes it trespass, not adverse possession. Your adverse possession claim is denied. Brenner sat down. Judge Torres turned to Tom. Mr. Chen, your client's ownership claim appears strong, but I want a full trial on the trespass issues. the structures, and damages. Trial is set for August 15th. 3 days. Be ready. Linda stood. Your Honor, those lots have been our community space for 30 years, Miss Chen. Sit down. The adverse possession claim is denied. If you want to argue trespass defenses or equitable considerations, you'll do it at trial. Not now. We walked out of the courthouse into bright June sunshine. Tom grinned. We just won the biggest issue. The rest is damages. I looked back at the courthouse, where Linda stood with Brenner, visibly angry. She wasn't giving up. Even with the adverse possession claim dead, even with her own board members turning against her, even with the evidence proving she'd lied, she was going to fight to the end. Fine, I'd see her in August. The Harmon County Courthouse was built in 1952 limestone. Facade. Marble floors. American flags flanking the entrance. Trial started at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday in mid-August. The courtroom was packed. Every seat in the gallery filled, people standing along the back wall. I counted at least 60 Lakeside Meadows residents. Some I recognized from the community meeting, the ones who'd booed me. Others were new faces. Tom and Jessica Winters sat 3 rows back on my side. The older man who'd nodded at me during the community meeting sat near them, maybe a dozen others. Scattered around quiet support in a sea of hostility. Linda sat at the defendant's table with David Brenner, Mark Stevenson beside her. Susan Garrett had resigned from the board 2 weeks earlier, couldn't stomach the lawsuit anymore, according to Tom Winters. Judge Torres took the bench at 9:02. This is the trial in Holloway versus Lakeside Meadows, HOA. We've already disposed of the adverse possession claim. Today we determine ownership, trespass, damages, and remedies. Mr. Chen, you may proceed. Tom's opening was methodical. Your Honor, this case is about a simple question. Who owns lots 4 through 8? The answer is equally simple. Brian Holloway. He purchased them legally at an estate sale. The title is clear, unbroken, and undisputed. The HOA has used those lots for decades, but use doesn't equal ownership. They never acquired title. They never checked title. And when confronted with proof of Mr. Holloway's ownership, they doubled down, spent members' money on a frivolous lawsuit, and caused significant harm. We're asking the court to confirm Mr. Holloway's title, order removal of unauthorized structures, and award damages for trespass. David Brenner stood. Your Honor, the community has treated these lots as their own for over 30 years. They've maintained them. They've invested in them. They've built a gazebo that serves the entire neighborhood, while the adverse possession claim was denied. The equities favor the community. Mr. Holloway paid $180,000 for property now worth nearly $500,000. He's already profited enormously. The court should consider the community's reliance and reject his demand to destroy structures that serve a genuine public purpose. Judge Torres made notes. Let's hear the evidence. Tom called his first witness, a title examiner named Patricia Morris, who'd reviewed the entire chain of ownership. Ms. Morris, you examined the title history for lots 3 through 8. What did you find? Clean, unbroken chain of ownership. The lots were platted in 1968 as part of the Lakeside Meadows subdivision. Margaret Foster purchased all 6 lots in November 1968 for $12,000 total. She held them until her death in 2024. Her estate sold them to Mr. Holloway in March 2026. 3 transfers in 58 years. No clouds, no defects, no competing claims. Did you find any transfer of those lots to the HOA? No. The HOA was formed in 1975 and acquired specific common areas, an entrance monument, and a tot lot on a different block. Lots for 8 were never part of that transfer. They remained private property. In your professional opinion, does Mr. Holloway have clear title? Yes, absolutely. Brenner's cross-examination was brief and ineffective. The title was ironclad. Next, Tom called a real estate appraiser. Mr. Caldwell, you appraised Mr. Holloway's 6 lots. What's their current market value? Between $425,000 and $475,000. Lakefront property in this area sells for $35,000 to $40,000 per acre. Mr. Holloway, it's 12.3 acres with direct lake access and minimal development restrictions. It's highly desirable property. And if the lots were developed with homes, each lot could support a home valued at $300,000 to $400,000, total potential value of $1.80 to $2.40 million if fully developed. Murmurs spread through the gallery. People hadn't realized how valuable the land was. Tom introduced the 1987 letter as Exhibit 12. Your Honor, this is Margaret Foster's letter granting permission for community use. It explicitly states the use was permissive and prohibited permanent structures. This defeats any claim that the HOA's use was hostile or adverse. Judge Torres read it carefully. This is dispositive on the adverse possession issue, which I've already ruled on, but it's also relevant to the trespass claim. Mrs. Foster said no permanent structures. The gazebo was built in 2018. That's a clear violation of the permission granted. Brenner tried to argue that permission given in 1987 didn't bind future boards or create perpetual restrictions, but Judge Torres cut him off. Counselor, the permission was permissive, not adverse. That's the legal significance. The fact that later boards violated the terms doesn't help your case. It makes it worse. Linda took the stand in the afternoon. Brenner walked her through the HOA's maintenance of the lots, the community events, the investment in the gazebo. Miss Chen, why did the HOA build the gazebo? Because the community wanted a gathering place. Somewhere to hold events, celebrate occasions, enjoy the lake. We all contributed. It was a community project. Did you believe the HOA owned those lots when you built the gazebo? Yes. Absolutely. They'd been community space for as long as anyone remembered. Did you ever intend to take anything from Mr. Holloway? No. We didn't even know he existed until he moved in. Tom's cross-examination was surgical. Ms. Chen, you testified you believed the HOA owned lots 4 to 8. Did you verify that before building the gazebo? We'd been maintaining them for decades. That's not what I asked. Did you check the title to confirm ownership? Linda hesitated. No. Did anyone on the board check? Not that I know of. So you spent $8,000 of HOA funds building a structure on land you assumed you owned without verifying? We didn't think we needed to. You collected $500 from each homeowner, about $40,000 total for this project. Did you tell them you hadn't verified ownership? It was community land. Tom pulled out the email from Discovery Linda's. Message to Mark and Susan about protecting property values. Ms. Chen, do you recognize this email? Linda's face tightened. Yes. You wrote, if Holloway builds on those lots, half the lakefront homes lose their views. My property alone would drop $50,000, $75,000. Did you write that? Yes. You live on lot 11, correct? Yes. Your lake view exists only because lots 4 to 8 remain undeveloped, correct? Yes. And if Mr. Holloway builds homes on his lots, your view disappears? Probably. And your property value drops by $50,000 to $75,000? That's my estimate, yes. You have a direct financial interest in preventing Mr. Holloway from developing his land. Linda's voice rose. I have an interest in protecting the entire community. But you didn't tell the community about your personal financial stake, did you? It wasn't relevant. You organized 80 homeowners to fight Mr. Holloway. You told them he was stealing their park. You collected money for a legal fund. But you never disclosed that your property would lose $75,000 in value if he won. Isn't that a conflict of interest? I was protecting everyone's property values. By fighting to control land the HOA never owned? Brenner objected. Judge Torres overruled. Tom continued. Ms. Chen, you knew Mr. Holloway's deed was legitimate, didn't you? I thought it might be a mistake. Susan Garrett reviewed it at the board meeting in April. She confirmed it was valid. You were there, correct? Yes. But you chose to proceed with the lawsuit anyway? We had to protect the community. You had to protect your view. That's not true. Tom slid the email across to the judge. Your Honor, Ms. Chun's own words show. Her primary motivation was protecting her personal property value, not community interests. Judge Torres reviewed the email, made notes, said nothing. Tom and Jessica Winters testified next. Tom went first. I'm an accountant. When Linda claimed Mr. Holloway was stealing community land, I did what I always do. I checked the numbers. I pulled the county records, reviewed the HOA's declaration of covenants. The lots were never HOA property. We paid $500 each for a gazebo built on someone else's land without their permission. Jessica followed. We were at the community meeting. We booed Mr. Holloway. We believed Linda when she said he was stealing our park. But when we researched it ourselves, we realized she'd lied. Those lots were never ours. Linda was fighting primarily to protect her own property value. How did you feel when you learned that? Tom asked. Betrayed. We trusted her to lead honestly. Instead, she misled the entire community and spent our money on a lawsuit we couldn't win. Brenner tried to discredit them on cross, suggesting they were biased or had been influenced by me. It didn't work. They were credible, detailed, clearly frustrated with Linda's leadership. Closing arguments came on the third day. Brenner argued equity. Your Honor, the community has relied on these lots for 30 years. Yes, they should have verified ownership. Mistakes were made. But ordering the removal of an $8,000 gazebo that serves the entire neighborhood is harsh and unnecessary. The court should fashion a remedy that balances Mr. Holloway's legal rights with the community's legitimate expectations. Tom's closing was direct. Your Honor, the law is clear. Mr. Holloway owns the land. The HOA built structures on it without permission in violation of Mrs. Foster's explicit instructions. The HOA collected $40,000 from residents and spent $8,000 building on someone else's property. That's not equity. That's mismanagement. The structures must be removed. Mr. Holloway is entitled to damages. And the HOA needs a court order making it crystal clear that these lots are private property, so this never happens again. Took 20 minutes to review her notes. Then she ruled. The evidence is unambiguous. Mr. Holloway owns lots 3 through 8. The chain of title is clear. The HOA never acquired ownership. Mrs. Foster's 1987 letter proves the community's use was permissive. It's not hostile. Adverse possession does not apply. She looked at Linda. Ms. Chen, the HOA built a gazebo in direct violation of Mrs. Foster's permission. You spent members' money on a structure you had no right to build. And you pursued this lawsuit primarily to protect your own property value. That's a breach of your fiduciary duty to the association. Linda opened her mouth. Judge. Torres held up a hand. Here is the judgment. First, Mr. Holloway's ownership of lots 3 to 8 is confirmed. Second, the HOA must remove all unauthorized structures, the gazebo, benches, and walking paths within 60 days. Third, the HOA will pay Mr. Holloway $15,000 in damages for trespass, unauthorized improvements, and the costs of defending his title. Fourth, the HOA will pay Mr. Holloway's attorney fees, which I calculate at $28,000 based on the records submitted. Fifth, the HOA is permanently enjoined from claiming, using, or maintaining these lots without Mr. Holloway's express written permission. The gallery erupted. Some residents clapped, others looked devastated. Judge Torres banged her gavel. Order, the judgment is entered. We're adjourned. Linda walked out of the courthouse without speaking to anyone. Residents surrounded. Tom and Jessica in the lobby, asking questions, expressing anger, demanding answers. Tom and I slipped out a side door. You won everything, he said. Title confirmed. Structures removed. Damages, fees, total recovery, $43,000, and my land back. That too. We drove back to his office in silence. I was exhausted. 2 years of fighting from the 911 call on moving day to a courtroom. Victory finally over. The HOA held an emergency meeting that Saturday. Tom Winters called it, invoking the bylaws Linda had tried to ignore. 87 residents attended. They voted 87-12 to remove Linda as president. She didn't attend the meeting. A new board was elected. Tom Winters became president. Jessica became treasurer. 3 other resident Saul people who'd supported me during the trial filled the remaining seats, their first act, authorizing removal of the gazebo and benches from my property. The gazebo came down the following Tuesday. Crew dismantled it carefully, moved it to the actual HOA common area on the other block. The benches were relocated too. The walking path on my land was closed. Markers removed. By the end of August, my lots were clear. 6 pristine lakefront parcels. No structures, no trespassers. No disputes, just mine. I stood on lot 6, where the gazebo had been, looking out at the lake. The water was calm. The sun was setting. The property was finally, completely, undeniably mine. But the question remained, what would I do with it? I stood on lot 6 the morning after the gazebo was removed, looking at the rectangular patch of dirt where it had stood for 6 years. The lake stretched out in front of me, calm and blue under the late August sun. 6 lots, 12 acres, prime. Lakefront property worth close to $500,000, all mine. Legally confirmed, court-ordered, undisputed. I could build on every lot. 5 lakefront homes. Sell them for $300,000 to $400,000 each. Walk away with $1.5 million profit on a $180,000 investment. Block every view, every inch of green space, exactly what Linda had feared. The question was, did I want to? I'd bought this property for the lake house, for peace, for a place to escape the city on weekends. Instead, I'd gotten 2 years of war. But the war was over, and I had a choice. Tom and Jessica Winters called me 3 days after the verdict. Brian, do you have time to meet? We'd like to talk about the lots. We met at a coffee shop halfway between the lake and the city. They looked nervous. We know you won, Tom said. The court confirmed you own all 6 lots. You have every legal right to develop them however you want. But I said, Jessica leaned forward. But the community is terrified. Half the lakefront homes will lose their views if you build. Property values will drop. We'll lose the green space we've used for 30 years. You mean the green space you used without permission? Yes, Tom said. Linda lied to us. She told us we owned it. We should have checked. We didn't. That's on us. But now we're asking, would you consider working with the community? Some kind of compromise? I sipped my coffee. What are you proposing? A conservation easement, Jessica said. You retain ownership, but you agree not to develop certain lots. The community gets guaranteed green space forever. You get ... we're not sure. There has to be something we can offer. Why would I? Give up development rights? Tom pulled out a folder. Because you didn't buy this property to be a developer. You bought it for the lake house. You fought because Linda tried to steal your land, not because you want to build 5 houses. If we can find terms that respect your ownership while preserving some green space, everyone wins. I thought about it. They were right. I'd never planned to develop the lots. I'd fought on principle because Linda called 911 on me, fined me, lied about ownership, and tried to bully me into surrendering my property. But the fight was over. I'd won. Did I need to burn the whole community down to prove a point? Let me think about it, I said. I met with Tom, my attorney, the following week. Tom and Jessica want me to donate development rights via conservation easement.
What's that?
Worth, tax-wise? A lot. If you donate development rights on, say, 3 lots, and those rights are appraised at $180,000, you get a charitable deduction, depending on your income. That could save you $50,000 to $60,000 in taxes over the next few years. And I'd still own the land? Yes. You just can't build on it. You can use it, walk on it, enjoy it, just can't develop it. And you can grant the HOA access for maintenance if you want. What should I ask for in return? Tom thought about it. The HOA just lost a $43,000 judgment. They're not flush with cash, but they could pay something, maybe $50,000, to cover your opportunity cost. Plus, you'd want all fines and violations permanently removed. And a public apology, acknowledging you were right. 3 lots protected, 3 lots mine to do whatever I want. That's reasonable. Keeps green space near the existing homes. Gives you flexibility on the lots furthest from neighbors. Drafted. The proposal went to the new HOA board in mid-September. Tom Winters presented it at a board meeting. I attended via Zoom. Brian is willing to place a permanent conservation easement on lots 4, 5, and 6, Tom said. Those lots will remain as green space forever. The community gets guaranteed access with Brian's permission. In exchange, Brian retains full development rights on lots 7 and 8, and the HOA pays $50,000 to compensate for the opportunity cost. One board member woman named Karen spoke up. Why should we pay him? He already won in court.
Cause
He's offering something he doesn't have to offer, Jessica said. He could build on all 5 lots tomorrow. We can't stop him. This gives us permanent green space. What's the tax benefit to him? Another member asked. Significant, Tom said, but that's his business. The question for us is, do we want guaranteed green space, or do we want a risk? Him developing everything? The vote was unanimous. Proceed with negotiations. The community vote was scheduled for early October. Every homeowner received a packet explaining the proposal. Brian Holloway donates development rights on lots 4, 5, and 6 via conservation easement. Community gains permanent green space, approximately 7 acres. HOA pays $50,000 one-time compensation. All fines and violations against Brian Holloway permanently. REMOVED issues public apology for false claims of ownership. The meeting drew 132 residents. Hello. I attended in person. Tom Winters presented the proposal. Took questions for 90 minutes. Why are we paying him $50,000? Someone asked. Because he's giving up $200,000 plus in development rights. The $50,000 is a fraction of what those lots are worth. And it protects our views and property values forever. What if we vote no? Then Brian keeps all his rights. He can build 5 houses if he wants. We lose the green space and the views. Can we trust him? Jessica stood. I've spent the last 3 months working with Brian. He's been fair, reasonable, and honest. Linda lied to us and cost 43,000 United States dollars. Brian's offering us a solution. I'm voting yes. The vote was called. 127 yes. 18 no. 5 abstentions. The conservation easement was approved. Linda. Chen wasn't at the meeting. She'd resigned from the HOA the day after the verdict. Stopped attending community events. Kept to herself. I heard through Tom that she'd refused to sign the public apology the board drafted. Said she'd done nothing wrong. That I'd stolen the community's land through a legal technicality. Her house went on the market in November. Listed for $385,000. Sat for 2 months. Sold in January for $352,000. $33,000 loss from what she'd paid. She moved out on a cold Saturday in February. I watched from my deck as the moving truck pulled away. No one came to say goodbye. She left the same way she'd let us outlated. Bitter, convinced she'd been wronged. The conservation easement was recorded with the county in late October. Lots 4, 5, and 6 permanently protected as open space. I retained ownership, but agreed not to develop them. The HOA was granted access for maintenance mowing. It's basic upkeep with my written approval. The $50,000 payment came into installments. Combined with the $15,000 in damages and $28,000 in attorney fee reimbursement, I'd recovered $93,000 of the $180,000 purchase price and to get $50,000 plus in tax savings from the conservation donation. Net cost. About $40,000 for a lakefront property. Worth $450,000? Not bad. I decided to build a small guest cottage on lot 7. Nothing massive. 900 square feet, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, covered porch facing the lake. Designed it myself with an architect friend. Rustic, simple, blending into the trees. Permits approved in November. Construction started in January. Finished by late March. Total. Cost, $120,000. Appraised value, $200,000. I started renting it on Airbnb in April. Booked solid through the summer. Generated $15,000 in income the first year. Lot 8, I sold to Tom and Jessica. Market value was probably $110,000. I offered it to them for $85,000 below market. Thanks for their support during the lawsuit and their work rebuilding the HOA. They broke ground on their dream home in May. Modern design, huge windows facing the lake, solar panels on the roof. Moved in by October, we became friends. Had dinner together every few weeks. Their kids played on the protected green space lots for 5 and 6, just like the community had always done. But now it was legal. The local news picked up the story in November. HOA's $43,000 mistake. Building on land they didn't own, the article detailed Linda's assumption that the lots were community property, the lawsuit, the verdict, and the settlement. Quoted Tom Winters, "This should be a warning to every HOA. Verify ownership before you build. Assumptions cost $43,000 United States dollars and years of conflict." Other HOAs in the county started reviewing their records. 3 discovered similar problems common. Areas they'd been maintaining for decades, but didn't actually own. All 3 reached out to the property owners, negotiated agreements, avoided litigation. The County Bar Association invited me to speak at a seminar on property disputes. I declined. I wasn't interested in being the face of HOA reform. I just wanted my lake house. 2 years after the verdict, I sat on the deck of my cottage, watching the sunset. The lake was glass smooth. A family from the neighborhood new arrivals who'd bought Linda's old house were down on Lot 5, teaching their kids to skip stones. A couple walked the shoreline holding hands. The green space was alive, used, loved, and it was still mine. I'd fought for 2 years, spent $30,000 in legal fees, endured vandalism, threats, and community hatred, but I'd won. Not just the lawsuit, not just the title, I'd won the principle. Linda had called 911 because I moved into my own house, tried to fine me for owning my own land, organized a mob to intimidate me, spent $43,000 of HOA. It's money on a lawsuit she couldn't win, all because she'd never checked who actually owned the property. I could have destroyed the community out of spite, built 5 houses, blocked every view, made it miserable. Instead, I'd found a compromise. 3 lots protected as green space forever. 2 lots developed on my terms. Fair compensation. Public acknowledgement that I'd been right. Boundaries respected. Ownership confirmed. Peace restored. Tom Winters walked up from the path carrying a 6-pack of beer. "Thought you might want company," he said, always. We sat on the porch, watching the sun sink below the tree line. "You ever regret it?" Tom asked, "fighting so hard?" I thought about it. The stress, the costs, the 2 years of war. "No," I said. "Linda tried to steal my land. I made her give it back. I made sure the whole community understood. Property rights matter. Can't just assume you own something because you've been using it. We learned that the hard way. You learned. That's what matters." He clinked his beer against mine. 2 boundaries. 2 boundaries. The family down on Lot 5 waved as they walked back toward the neighborhood. I waved back. This was what I'd wanted, a lake house. Peace. Neighbors who respected property lines. It had taken a lawsuit to get here, but it was worth it. Every dollar. Every deposition, every fight. Because now, when I stood on my land, no one questioned who owned it. The deed had my name. The court had confirmed it, and everyone, including Linda Chen, wherever she was, now knew the truth. I owned the block, and I always had. The conservation easement signing happened on a Thursday in late October at the county recorder's office. Just me. Tom Winters, the attorney, and a clerk named Patricia, who'd been recording deeds in Harmon County for 32 years. "Lots 4, 5, and 6, Patricia said, reviewing the documents. 7 acres permanently protected as open space. You retain ownership. But development rights transferred to the Land Conservancy Trust. This is binding on all future owners in perpetuity. Understand." She slid the documents across. I signed 4 copies. She notarized each one, added the county seal, filed them in the system, all set. These lots can never be developed. You just donated a significant public benefit. I walked out with my copies, the autumn sun warm on my face. 7 acres that Linda Chen had tried to steal through a 911 call and a lawsuit, now protected forever on my terms. With my signature because I'd proven ownership, the $50,000 check. From the HOA arrived the next week. I deposited it, paid off the last of my legal fees, and took Tom Chen, my attorney, to dinner at the nicest steakhouse in the county. 2 years, he said, raising his glass. From a 911 call to a $43,000 judgment to a conservation easement worth $180,000, you won every round. I just wanted my lake house. You got your lake house? And you taught an entire HOA board that assumptions cost money? We clinked glasses. On the drive home, I thought about the cost. Not the money I'd come out ahead financially, but the time. The stress. The 2 years of fighting, instead of enjoying the property I'd bought, Linda had stolen that from me. The land she'd failed at that. But the peace, the quiet weekends, the easy transition into lake life, that was gone. I'd won it back through the settlement, but those 2 years were lost forever. Was it worth it? I looked out at the lake as I pulled into my driveway. The answer was yes, because if I'd surrendered, paid Linda's fines, accepted her lies, let the HOA keep my land, I'd have lost something worse than 2 years. I'd have lost my spine. 3 weeks later, I was building a fire pit on Lot 3 when a car pulled up. A woman got out. It's mid-50s, dressed in a business suit, despite it being Saturday morning. Brian Holloway? That's me. I'm Margaret Chen, Linda's sister. I set down my shovel. She asked me to come talk to you. Why didn't she come herself? Because she's embarrassed and angry. And she knows you'd probably tell her to leave. Probably, I said. Margaret looked at the lake, the protected lots, the space where the gazebo had been. She made a mistake. She assumed the HOA owned this land because it had been used as community space for so long. She should have verified. She didn't, and it cost her everything. It cost the HOA $43,000. It cost her reputation and friends. But she made those choices. She did. She's not asking for sympathy. But she wanted you to know she's not appealing. She's not fighting anymore. She's accepted the judgment and moved on. Good. Margaret handed me an envelope. This is from her. I opened it, a handwritten note on plain paper. Mr. Holloway, you were right. I was wrong. The lots were yours. Should have checked before calling 911, before filing violations, before SUING. I acted on assumptions, not facts. I cost my community money and trust. I lost my position, my reputation, and my home. I will not appeal. I will not contact you again. I will not interfere with your property rights. I'm sorry for the harm I caused. Linda Chunai read it twice. No excuses, no justifications, just acknowledgement. Wrote this herself? Yes. It took her 6 drafts. She wanted to get it right. I folded the note, put it back in the envelope. Thank you for bringing it. Will you accept her apology? I thought about that. 2 years of fighting. 911 calls. Fines, depositions, trial, $43,000 in damages. All because Linda had been too arrogant to verify ownership before attacking. I accept. That she's sorry, I said. I don't forgive the damage she caused, but I accept that she's learned from it. Margaret nodded. That's fair. She walked back to her car, paused before getting in. The conservation easement you created, my niece's kids play on that land every week. They love it. Linda may not be able to say this, but I will. Thank you for not destroying it out of spite. A lot of people would have. Didn't do it for her. Linda, I did it for the community that got caught in her mess. Still, thank you. She drove away. I stood there holding the envelope, watching the lake Linda had lost. Completely, publicly, expensively. But she'd learned maybe that was enough. That evening, Tom and Jessica Winters came by with a bottle of wine and blueprints. We're breaking ground next month, Jessica said, spreading the plans across my kitchen table. Lot 8. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, southern exposure for solar panels. We wanted you to see it first. The design was beautiful, modern clean lines. Massive windows facing the lake. It's perfect, I said. We couldn't have done this without the deal you gave us. Market rate for that lot would have killed our budget. You stood with me when 80 residents were calling me a thief that was worth more than $25,000? Tom poured the wine. To the block, to the block. We sat on my deck, watching the sun set over the protected lots for 5 and 6, the land I'd fought for and chosen to preserve. In 6 months, Tom and Jessica's house would stand on Lot 8. My guest cottage on Lot 7 was all ready, generating rental interest for next summer. Lot 3 held my lake house, the fire pit I'd just built, and the peace I'd finally earned. 6 lots. All mine, all legal. All proven. Linda had called 911 because I'd parked a moving truck on community property. She'd learned the hard way that it was never community property. It was mine. The deed said so. The survey confirmed it. The court affirmed it. And now, with a conservation easement protecting 3 lots forever and development plans for the others, the story had an ending Linda never imagined when she dialed those 3 numbers. Not her victory, not her control. Not her land, mine, earned through proof, defended through law, and preserved through choice. I owned the block, and finally 2 years and 1 lawsuit late I could enjoy it.